Happy New Year. Yes, this is Father Kubicki of the Apostleship of Prayer wishing you a happy new church year. It's the first Sunday of Advent, and we begin a new church year as we prepare for the celebration of Christ's birth. As we prepare, let's try to have a spirit of longing for Jesus, the same longing that the people of Israel had for their Messiah and Savior. The prophet Isaiah, who's very much an Advent prophet, captured that Advent sense of longing for God. That's what we find in our first reading at Mass today from Isaiah, who pleads, "Why do you let us wander, O Lord, from your ways, and harden our hearts so that we fear you not? Return for the sake of your servants. Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, with the mountains quaking before you, while you wrought awesome deeds we could not hope for, such as they had not heard of from of old. No ear has ever heard, no eye ever seen any God, but you doing such deeds for those who wait for you." That's a great description of Advent, a desire for God to save the world, to set things right, to do awesome deeds, to change the hard hearts of humanity. We all long for a better world where there is no suffering, no poverty, no war. That change will only come when hard hearts are changed. And God changes those hearts, not with some powerful display that causes fear, but by becoming a small baby who invites us to love him. God became a weak little baby, not to force us to love him, but to invite us to love him, not to threaten us, but to attract us. Will you let him attract you to himself this Advent?
For more information, visit our website at www.apostleshipofprayer.org.
Israelite prophets often pronounced judgment on the kingdom for violating God's covenant, while in other societies they tended to focus on communicating divine support for kings. But while prophecies often denounce sin, they also point to the restoration and redemption in God's plan for the world. Isaiah is the fifth gospel and the most referenced one throughout the Bible. He was said to be very much an Advent prophet. The name Isaiah means "the Lord saves." He knew more perfectly than all others of the mystery of the religion of the gospel. When God called him from the temple, Isaiah had excuses to why the Lord shouldn't choose him. He tells God that he is unclean and too sinful to fulfill his commands, but God goes ahead and chooses him anyways. He is said to be more of an evangelist than a prophet, because he described all of the mysteries of the Church of Christ so vividly that you would assume he was not prophesying about the future, but rather was composing a history of past events.
The book of Isaiah actually entails three prophetic traditions under the name of Isaiah. The first part is perhaps the historic Isaiah himself. This is represented by chapters 1 through 39. Isaiah lived in the time of King Ahaz and Hezekiah of Judah, and Isaiah was warning to keep faith in God and to not place your trust in foreign kings. And when Ahaz decided to place his trust in other kings, Isaiah prophesied that another would come. There are what many people call the beginning of the messianic prophecies in Isaiah. Perhaps most famous is Isaiah 9, in which Isaiah calls for Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, made famous in Handel's Messiah. Beyond what we call first Isaiah, there is second Isaiah, which is chapters 40 to 55. Now, second Isaiah is written at the end of the Babylonian exile, a time when Babylon overcame Judah and carted off all the people and to live in Babylon. At this time, there was actually a war, a civil war in Babylon, and it looked like Persia was going to take over. And so this Isaiah is encouraging the people with the hope of returning home. It begins, "Comfort, comfort my people," as opposed to telling the people that they're wrong or sinful or something like that. It also includes passages about the suffering servants, which is debate about whether that is pointing, as Christians might think, towards Jesus or just representative of the people in general. The third Isaiah are the last 10 chapters of the document. And this is about the return home. This is when the Persians are in power. This occurs around 510 BC. And it is a hope for the people in restoring the kingdom. It's a call for the people to be a light to the nations, a new kingdom established by God where there be no more pain and suffering anymore. So Isaiah is one book, but it covers a huge swath of the history of the Jewish people.
The New Testament quotes Isaiah more than any other prophetic book. However, the book of Isaiah presents some interesting dilemmas for analysis. Isaiah in Jerusalem, the prophet for whom the book is named, is said to have started his ministry in the reign of King Uzziah. Uzziah died about 740 BC. The problem with accurate dating occurs with the mention of the Persian Empire Cyrus in Isaiah chapter 45. Cyrus deceived Babylon in 539 BC. It is virtually certain that the same prophet did not begin his career before 740 and then lived to see the rise of Cyrus the Persian 2 centuries later. This issue, along with others, has led to the understanding that the book of Isaiah actually contains the work of more than one writer, for more than one time. The book of Isaiah is usually divided as follows. Isaiah, chapters 1 through 39. These chapters are mostly stories about and sayings of the actual prophet Isaiah of Jerusalem, for whom the book is named. Isaiah chapters 40 through 55. A second unnamed prophet, known as Second Isaiah, is credited with this portion of the book. Second Isaiah lived at the end of the Babylonian period and the beginning of the Persian period, and likely witnessed the collapse of Babylonian to the Persian Empire. Examination of the text and message of Second Isaiah will accompany our study of Judah in exile in Babylon. Isaiah chapters 56 through 66. The final chapters are thought to have been collected by disciples of Second Isaiah. Writing from Jerusalem and the diaspora after the exile, these chapters emphasize the importance of the temple and invite all nations to join Israel as God's chosen people. The first 39 chapters of the book of Isaiah detail the ministry of the prophet in Jerusalem. At the temple, Isaiah had a vision of the Lord in glory. Isaiah was humbled and proclaimed his unworthiness to be God's messenger. The story tells of an angel touching Isaiah's mouth with an ember from the altar and thus removing his sinfulness. The first 39 chapters of the book of Isaiah include several other notable passages, including the Vineyard Song, that deceives the chosen people as their vine of God. This image recurs in the New Testament in the words of Jesus and the letters of Paul.
Chapter 53. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Isaiah gave his children strange names which had meaning. His first child's name meant, "A remnant shall return." His second child's name was Emmanuel, which meant, "God is with us." His third child, which had the strangest name of all his children, meant, "Praise speeds away," or "Foreigners will come and destroy Jerusalem." It wasn't that Isaiah was telling the future, he was sending a message. Isaiah's words were strategies for war. He always told people to trust in God and that God will get them through tough times, such as the period of uncertainty, when one of Isaiah's disciples gave the people hope with a poem saying that all flesh shall see the Lord's hope and help. These words were not only for the people of his time, but for all of God's people for all time. Overall, Isaiah's main message was to always trust in the Lord,